Okay, so question and answers. Who's got a question they've been dying to ask? Yes, ma'am.
Medication. You know, you get a prescription for your doctor in 90 days.
Right.
But, like I've had it, let's say I refilled it last month, something happened.
Okay.
You can't go get another 90 days, so 90 days is up.
Right. Okay, so
How do you do that?
okay. So the question is, what do you do with medications? And y'all, I'm going to be repeating your questions because we're videotaping them for YouTube for other people in the future. There's a number of things you can do with the medications. My wife takes medications on certain medications every month. Okay. What we try to do when we first started prepping, what we try to do is basically she gets a 30-day supply. We get the prescription filled 2 or 3 days early. If we can get it filled 3 days early each month, then at the end of 10 months, we have a full month supply. It's one thing you can do. Another thing you can do is ask your doctor point blank, hey, are you a prepper? He'll either say yes or no, or she'll say yes or no. If they say no, say, okay, are any of your colleagues that have the same specialty you have preppers that you know of? And when he says, yeah, it's so-and-so, okay, thank you, and have a good day. And you go to that doctor in the future. But the key is a lot of doctors, not all of them, and not with all medications, because some medications they can't, okay? But a lot of doctors, if you tell them, look, I'm a prepper, I'm convinced that in the next 2 years our way of life is going to come to an end, and you have convinced me that these medications I need every month or I'm going to die anyway. So I'd like to be able to stockpile some of these medications. I'd like to have at least a year's supply at all times. And some doctors, as long as they're allowed to, depending on the medications, will go ahead and write you a 1-year prescription where you can get that filled as one whole deal. Couple things about medications most people don't know about. For starters, is there anybody here that's insulin dependent? Okay, does anybody here that knows anybody that's insulin dependent? Okay, they make a powdered form of insulin. You add water and you have insulin, okay? It's not available here in the United States. It was created at the University of Minnesota. It's not available here in the United States. So I'm not a doctor. I'm not allowed to give you medical advice. However, with that disclaimer, if I was insulin dependent or my spouse was insulin dependent or my children were insulin dependent, I would figure out some way to get some powdered insulin on hand and stockpile that, okay? On a side note, I hear it can be found in Canada. I don't know. Really though, with your medications, there's a rule of thumb for medications I've been told by doctors. Again, I'm not a doctor. Don't take my advice as being solid. Research it yourself. Talk to your doctor about it. But my understanding, rule of thumb with medications is two ways to deal with medications that have reached their expiration point. One, once you hit your expiration point, there's a mathematical equation for the amount of time past the expiration point that you can still take those medicines. You have to double doses or something like that. So ask your doctor about those, okay? Two, I do know that when you open your pill bottle, if you run your finger inside and you get a chalky substance on it, it's pretty much letting you know that those pills have started to degrade, deteriorate, and it's probably a good idea to go ahead and pitch those and find something else. Pill form in your medications is the longest shelf life of any of them you can get, followed by powder, followed by liquid, okay? So always try to get the pill form. Another thing you can do is you can find pharmacies that are compounding pharmacies where they actually make the prescriptions there, okay? With one of my wife's medications, we found that there is a natural substitute that has the exact same effect as the medication that she's taking. Now, we still go to the pharmacy every month and get that prescription filled. But when we went to the compounding, what do they call that? Honey, what's that called?
A compounding pharmacy.
Hey, when we went to the compounding pharmacy.
Some Sam's Clubs do it if they have a pharmacy in them.
Right, but
So
the,
your pharmacy might do it, some Walgreens.
right, but the small mom and pop compounding pharmacies, you'll get some one-on-one time with the pharmacist. And just ask them, look, this is the medication I take every month. Is there an herbal substitute? I'm going to continue to take this until pharmacies no longer exist. But I want to have something stockpiled that I can take when this runs out. And you'll be surprised how many medications, or how many medications you're currently taking. They'll go, well, yeah, you take this for that, and you take this for that, and here's the ratio that you take it to get the same amount that you're getting out of that. So that's another thing you can do. But it depends on the medications and it depends on the doctor.
I'm gonna give a for instance real quick. My daughter in high school started getting incredibly knocked down migraine headaches. She took every kind of Fioricet, every kind of medication for a couple years, and they would pretty much knock her out in
Right.
pill form. The doctor would change them up. And finally, a Mormon friend of hers said, try peppermint oil. You rub it on your temples, your wrists, and the back of your neck. She got off all of her medications and now carries a small vial of peppermint oil. That's just an example. I now carry it too. I don't get migraines, but when I start to get a headache before I reach for something else, rub it in the backs of my temples, wrists, and neck. There's surprisingly enough, there's
And
a
it
lot
will-
of things out there that do that. If you think about it, the ancient medicines,
Right.
that's all they had.
Peppermint oil will kill a headache in minutes. Eucalyptus will clear your sinuses in minutes, and it smells good. I will tell you this with the peppermint oil, don't get it too close to your eyes.
And that you also can get at pharmacies and most of your GNCs and holistic
Right.
food stores. You might have to
Right.
ask the pharmacist for them because they keep them in the back.
Another thing for just all around day-to-day use, there is a number of things that cinnamon and honey will cure. The trick is the honey needs to be local honey, okay? I have really bad allergies, and I live in the state where every tree that anybody is ever allergic to is found, right? And I live on top of a wooded mountain. Little things like your allergies are bothering you. It's 1 teaspoon of honey, half a teaspoon of salt, and boiling water. Makes into a little tea. You drink it, and it clears opens your sinuses right up. So there's a lot of stuff like that you can do. And honey has no expiration date, none. When it starts to crystallize, you heat it up. A few minutes later, it's back to normal, and you can eat it crystallized. It's not going to harm you. So honey is a wonderful thing to have. Find a local. I guess they're not called honeyers. There we go, apiaries. Find your local apiary and get some local honey
Some of your
from your
festivals,
area.
you can get honey and just ask what it's from. And most of the time, they'll be your local farmers that are selling the honey in raw form.
Something else that's really cool is we've started seeing, we travel all over. We've started seeing in Walmarts, they'll have an end cap that is your local products. And it'll be, like for us, it's a lot of Amish stuff because there's a lot of Amish people around there. The big joke in our house was, for a long time, when the end comes, we were going to kidnap a couple Amish women because they know how to make soap and herbal remedies, and they know how to can, and
Ugly Amish women.
they know how to make all the stuff, So it's kind of a joke.
Go ahead and get 4 when you get to 2.
And just bring them with us, right? So I know that doesn't fully answer your question, but here's the downside of what we're dealing with. Here's where it gets kind of morbid, okay? The reason the dying times are what they are is the average person has 30 days worth of medication, okay? 1 in 9 people in our country rely on some form of medication to sustain their life. 1 out of every 5 people in our country have medication to keep them sane. Those medications are going to run out in 30 days. That's why the second biggest dying time is actually the third dying time, which takes place between day 30 and 45, which we do a whole study on that. And it's pretty in-depth. If you want to see a really good study on that, I wrote a book called Society and Events, the First 180 Days. You can get it on Amazon. As soon as we get some more copies in, we'll have them on our website. For those of you that are new to prepping, you're going to have to very quickly over the next few months spend quite a bit of money. So it's my gift to everybody here. When we get back to Jerry's house tonight, I'm going to email him a copy of the digital copy, and he can email it to all of y'all. So, but there's a real good section there about the first 180 days, the dying times. There's some morals in there. I wrote it before I evolved to the point where I believe in taking care of the community, I'll admit. So, But it is still some good rules of thumb to live by. So I know it really doesn't fully answer the question, but it gets you started a little bit. Another thing is a lot of the medications that we take are the same for our pets. Okay, case in point, I won't mention the pill, but my wife broke a toe in her foot and was given a prescription for a certain pill. A few weeks later, and we paid like $48, I think it was, for 20 tablets, right? A few weeks later, our dog we have dachshunds, and she had a problem with her back. We took her in, and the vet looked at her and gave her a prescription for the exact same pill. We got 30 tablets for $11. When we got home, we looked at it, it was the same milligram, and when we took 2 pills out of the bottle, they were identical. You know, so I don't recommend taking your prescription to a vet, but I will say there's a lot of stuff that you can get that is the same for fish and for animals is what we're currently
But
using.
try and get pharmacy grade.
Yeah, you have to get the pharmacy grade, and listen, amoxicillin is the one thing you do want to stockpile, is amoxicillin. Yes, ma'am.
That's what I was gonna say, you can get that through your veterinarian.
Right, you can get it through your vet, you can get it at most pet supply houses, and you can get it on Amazon.com. I think we bought, it was 100, 250 milligram tablets. I think we got it for like $17 on Amazon. So it is the fish grade, or it states it's for fish, but it's the pharmaceutical grade. And it's the exact same thing that the pharmacy would give us.
Make sure it says that on the bottle or where you buy it.
It has to say pharmaceutical grade.
From a